Welcome to the Group Chat, a podcast hosted by Vic Kaempf, Pav Toure and Sunny Singh. This podcast will talk about all the things that matter, right here and now. We'll discuss and debate what's happening in popular culture, music, dating, and the craziness of everyday life. You've officially been added to the Group Chat. Hello, and welcome, and can you believe it, we're back for episode 2 of the In the Group Chat podcast. This is a no BS show talking about everything and anything. I'm joined by the In the Group Chat regulars, Vic Kaempf, Pav Toure, virtually of course, because of course guys, we're in a lockdown. Hello chaps, how are you?
All good mate, how are you?
Alright lads, how you guys doing?
I'm good. How many weeks in the lockdown are we? This started 23rd of
8 weeks?
March?
I think 8 weeks because it's
8 weeks in the lockdown.
Oh, it's exactly 2 weeks today. 2 months today. Because we are.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Happy lockdown month anniversary. Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Something like that.
happy 2 months, everybody.
Yeah, you too,
Yay,
man.
we made it.
Party time.
I wish.
One man party.
Honestly.
Can't be around people.
I think I don't know about you, Pav, but I think I'm going to be working from home for the rest of the year.
Yeah, mate, that's exactly the same with me. It's actually funny you mentioned this because my HR called me yesterday. Oh, sorry, not yesterday. He emailed and he basically said,
You're fired.
No, thank God for that. No, he basically just said, even once this is all over, there is every chance that we will just work from home now, remotely.
I don't know about you, but I actually don't mind working from home as long as I can go out and see my mates.
Yeah, mate, I absolutely love it. I think it's actually so much better. I think time-wise as well, I save nearly 2 hours a day on commuting, so I think that's always a plus point. And yeah, I mean, I know right now it's a bit difficult because we aren't allowed to go out and see people and stuff, but once this is all over, we'll be allowed to basically go out and see everybody. And then we get the best of both worlds, where I literally start at 9:30 and I wake up at 9:30, so I get that luxury. But then at the same time, and then once it hits 5:30 or whatever, then log off, and then I can carry on with the rest of my day. I don't have to waste time commuting or anything. So, yeah, I think it's quite good.
Yeah, and Vic, I mean, you've always worked from home.
No, I'm actually on the verge of getting fired. So
from yourself,
fire myself.
How has it been for you? Because what's changed? If anything has changed?
I guess it's very different for self-employed people. I have often just been working from home, and I have freedom to kind of take my laptop wherever I want to go. So it's actually been better for me because I've been getting more work in. It's been way more consistent than ever, which is a bit weird because I'm not used to consistency. A lot of the time, being self-employed, you have to promote your own work and get the clients in and stuff. And now I'm actually to a point where I'm actually getting more work than I could ever ask for, which is brilliant for me. So I'm grateful for that. But I feel like even then, when it does come back to doing the norm of what I used to do every day, is like I used to go to a coffee shop nearly every day, spending money on a coffee, my vanilla latte, and sitting for about 5 to 6 hours in a coffee shop for the day working. So I guess the difference only is right now that I'm sitting at home, working at my desk and going for the odd drive here and there. So it's not too bad. I'm actually not too affected by it.
I think I have a question for you, mate.
Yeah, go for it.
As someone who, I've never been self-employed, so I wouldn't know, but how do you self-motivate yourself when you are self-employed?
Oh, okay.
Because obviously we have a manager that will basically start moaning at us if we don't do anything. But how do you do it?
Pav's got a good point. We're held accountable by other people for the jobs that we do. For you, it's you look yourself in the mirror and say, "Hey,
I gotta get on with it.
Stop fucking around."
Yeah, that is basically like it sometimes. And sometimes there are those days where I am very, very demotivated, or I don't feel like doing any artwork. You know, I am constantly looking at a screen, and constantly it can sometimes become a bit of a repetitive thing for me. But I feel like you know, with the client work, it's different to doing personal work. So because there's money involved in the client work, it means I have to get up and, you know, get my creative mind on and get myself in the zone, you know, make my coffee, get myself listen to some music and have something on in the background. I guess that's what kind of motivates me as well, to just kind of get in the zone a little bit. But there are definitely those days where I'm just like, I can't be asked to get out of bed because I haven't slept until about 5-6 a.m.
I just a huge shout out to the key workers who have had to drag themselves out of bed while everybody else has been working from home.
Yeah,
that must be seriously tough. But thank you.
You know what else is quite tough? Apparently a lot of them, they don't even get to go home. So I know a few people that are working in hospitals and stuff, and they don't go home. They have to stay in hotels and quarantine themselves for 2 weeks before they can go home. So for them it's extra tough if they have families and stuff, because they're just not allowed to go home. So yeah, big shout out to them.
That's definitely a big change in lifestyle, and you know, they have to kind of get used to not seeing their families, and, you know, putting themselves forward for protecting, you know, other individuals, and making sure that the well-being of these others, they are their patients, you know, at the end of the day, or, you know, the police that are out there, you know, working 24/7. I guess it's a very different to what we're doing here, you know, building our own lives.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
What, say we're 2021 January, and let's hope this never happens, but hypothetically, what if Boris gets on the horn and says, that's it guys, we got to stay in the lockdown? What could you not live without?
Nando's.
Nando's.
I'm already struggling, guys. I don't know. I think it's just a social aspect for me. I wouldn't say I'm the most, like, I need to be out every day. And so far it's not been too bad. But I do feel like if this goes on for too long, it will become tough, and we just won't be able to hang around and do stuff. And also door gigs and stuff as well for us. You know, that's a portion of money that we can't make.
Yeah.
And for some,
I miss playing.
Yeah, I completely miss it as well. And I think those are the things that I might miss. Otherwise, to be honest, for me personally, I'm quite enjoying lockdown to a certain extent, where I feel like I'm a lot more productive now, and I think, you know, I've started to do a lot more stuff that I wouldn't necessarily do because I'd complain I didn't have the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think maybe those are the ones I miss. Definitely fast food. I mean we're all foodies, right? Sonny, you know, we used to always go out at least once a week and try something new. So.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're definitely big foodies. Just on your point about playing Dawl, I think for me the one thing I miss playing Dawl, and I've always been a passionate Dawl player, but I miss for me it was a massive social.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Going out with your mates, you know, going to these awesome venues,
performing,
playing with awesome people, performing on stage, exactly. Yep. That's always been a massive highlight for me, and it begs the question to where this puts the wedding industry, and, you know, the entertainment industry as a whole. I'm not talking about radio stations and television. I'm more talking about bars, clubs, hospitality, if you want to call it that. Imagine being a student, for example, you know, not being able to enjoy your first year at university as everybody else ahead of you has boasted about the, you know, how extravagant some of these student nights are.
And it's all about the experience, I guess, at the end of the day. That's what sometimes people go to uni for.
Like, you miss out on an experience, which I think I've got a friend who's just got into Cambridge University to study her masters, and you know who you are, and well done. Cambridge University is incredible, and they've just announced for the first year, for the remainder of the year, they're going to be hosting lectures online. So, you know, you lose out on the experience of being at university, meeting different people, and
I think it's an aspect where, you know, these measures are going to be put in place, you know, and they already are, I guess, even with these venues and clubs and everything. There's a reason why there's these supposed phases that, you know, the country's going through, or the whole world is going through, I guess, to rebuild society, and, you know, all the businesses and places that people go to so regularly, and, you know, it's just so that it's controlled, and something like this doesn't happen again, or it doesn't come back worse.
Like, how is a girl ever going to twerk on a guy in a club when there has to be a 2-meter social distancing rule? That's just not going to happen, is it?
Virtually.
Virtually twerking.
Technologies will evolve.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think things will go back to normal. It's not
Things will,
that
yeah.
It won't.
Yeah.
But it's just how quickly they'll go back is the question at hand.
Yeah. It's that,
like,
and just being careful with it as well.
Yeah, of course.
But the problem is, the whole nation is exactly the same, where we will forget about it after a little while and pretend like it just never happened.
I think that's some people already, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures of all the people at the beach.
How does that make you feel when you see that? And you know what? I'll be very honest. I mean, like, every Thursday, the people that are out clapping, I honestly feel like some of those same people are the ones that are at the beach.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
What's the reason? Why do you think that? Like,
I don't know. I think
where's
because
the
they're from Essex.
oh.
Immune Essex.
No.
Basically, Vic's neighbour said he's going to the beach while he was clapping
Yeah,
outside.
clapping up to the beach.
But you know what? It's just one of those thoughts. It's like, okay, tons of clapping, you know, and that's great because, you know, the NHS deserve it, but then at the same time, are these people actually following the rules? The ones that are clapping, it's a bit weird. I don't know, but.
But you have to thank the NHS.
You have to,
I think
yeah.
they have done.
I have a
job.
close friend who is also a nurse, so I know how it is from her end as well, and it's tough. It's tough to deal with mentally as well.
I mean, I'd be very disappointed if the NHS staff, after all of this, did not get a pay rise. I mean, clapping is all good, but I think a pay rise is what they deserve.
Is warranted for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're indoors. We're stuck indoors. I think mentally, it's been challenging. I think, you know, we've all had to do things to help us stay a little bit more positive.
Especially when the sun's beaming down outside.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think there's, you know, I'd love to hear what you guys are doing to stay positive. And, you know, I think it's an important topic, and I wonder if someone listening would benefit from it. So, Vic, what have you been doing?
I mean, I've definitely just been like kind of keeping myself busy, just listening to some music and watching Netflix shows, things that I usually wouldn't end up watching as well. Just like some of the shows that have just been on my watch list for a long time. So I'm like, hey, this is the best time for me to just kind of, you know, keep myself occupied. I've definitely been going for drives. Drives always help me. So, you know, self-isolating in my car, I think that's allowed.
Yeah, it's allowed.
Definitely driving is something that helps me just kind of get away from the screen a lot of the time and just clear my mind. That definitely helps. You know, stepping away from all the electronical stuff, the social media that I'm on Instagram way too much sometimes, because that is where my business is, you know.
Yeah. I don't know about
over.
you, Pav, but I've definitely I think one of the best things I've done is limit the amount I'm on social media, and the way I've done that is I've removed my own account from my phone, but I've allowed myself to be on it on my computer.
Oh, fine.
So if I happen to go on it on my browser, I can scroll on Instagram and just feed my addiction for Instagram. But I don't go on it on my phone.
Ooh, that's quite a clever way
So
to do it.
when I'm out and about, I don't go on it. Or when I'm downstairs in front of the TV or talking to somebody, I'm not on it. So,
Limit yourself to 10 likes per day.
yeah, well. Pat, what have you been doing?
So, for me, one of the things that I've always complained about when when we were when I was working in the office, is I never had time to do anything else. Because you commute, you work at 9 to 5:30 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And by the time you commute back, so I've been true to my word, and I've used this time to a bit of personal development, just pick up a couple of hobbies, just something that I wouldn't necessarily have done before that I now have the time to do, and there's no excuse for not doing it. One of the things is, Sunny, as you know, we basically learn Spanish on Duolingo, and that's purely because of that trip to Cuba that we luckily managed to squeeze in before all of this lockdown. And so if I'm not doing that, I'm learning a new instrument. So I can play Dol, but I've always wanted to play Dolki as well. So I'm learning that. Where I can keep active, I keep active. So I pull out my old bike. So sometimes I go for a bike ride, or sometimes I work out. And just basically just filling my hours with things that I would complain that I couldn't do before that I can now do.
I think that's what many people are trying to do now. I mean, like, I feel like because there are often those moments where we feel like we can't achieve some of the things that we've always wanted to because we're always at work, and now because people aren't at work, they have that time, so they can't really, there's no excuse.
So one of the things with me was because sometimes work can be quite hectic, it can be quite mentally draining.
Sure.
So then when you come to the weekend, you just don't want to do anything, and you just want to basically be a couch potato or a bum and just basically just sit your whole weekend away. But now that we aren't going into the office, and some people have unfortunately been furloughed, or they've been made redundant, or whatever it is, or even people like me and yourselves who are still working but from home, because we've got this extra time, we don't necessarily feel like we need to, we don't get as drained from all the travel and stuff that we do, and so naturally there's more energy in us, and so I feel like the best thing you could do is utilize that. And so if you have like a business idea or something, or like we thought the podcast, like we did a lot of work during lockdown for this podcast. Me and Sunny have done a lot of work on the blog as well during this podcast, and so I just think if you guys have a lot of spare time and some spare energy, just put it to use. Don't like overly binge watch on Netflix and stuff, because you'll come out the other side.
Sorry, I'll cut down. It's okay.
So this basically, if you're you're in the lockdown, use this time to start something that you thought you would never start.
Make your TikTok account. Don't worry, jump in that. The boys have done it. There's Life of a Door Player on TikTok now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would thoroughly say to anybody, like, please go ahead and do it, because you'll come out the other side of lockdown and then you'll reflect on yourself and say, well, what did I achieve during this period when I had the time to do it?
With your TikTok page built up with loads of videos.
I've never used TikTok, so I was going to say TikTok. So what's TikTok like? What have you been doing on it?
I mean, it's different because I don't use it the way I don't personally use it the way it's supposed to be used, which is you make videos.
Doing a miraculous change in outfit. You should do quarantine beard without quarantine beard. Beard without quarantine beard.
There's loads of them. There's like the one where you're wiping the
mirror,
the window, and all of a sudden they change. Or there's
that's quite a cool one. I saw Mickey Singh do one.
The really funny one is, I don't know if you guys have seen Rush Hour, but in the third one when he goes to where they do the karate school, and he's like, "Oh, what's your name?" and he goes, "I'm you."
Me, yeah.
So there's a whole TikTok on it where like people will be talking to themselves in the mirror, going, "No, I'm you," "No, you're me," or whatever it is. It's quite funny. I mean, I obviously use it for the blog, so a lot of it's just basically
recycled Dol clips,
Dol videos,
Dol highlights.
So it's not the greatest TikTok account, to be fair, but it was something that
how many followers do you have?
Do you know what? I'm not sure, but I think we only had it for like a couple of weeks. So I think we're at like 150 maybe, if that.
Gee.
So not bad. I mean, one of the videos
decent.
got.
Look, the greatness is coming. Like the content's there, it's flowing. Good.
Yeah, and this is something that me and Sunny discussed. How are we gonna, with the blog? How are we gonna sort of improve it? And it just goes back to my point where you try to utilize this time as much as you can. And one of the things we discussed was, let's go down this avenue of TikTok and let's see if it generates anything. What's the worst that's going to happen? It's not going to do anything for us, but then we'll just...
You're going to get fangirls. You're going to get fangirls wanting to watch Dol players.
And fanboys.
Yeah. So, Sunny, to your point...
I think Dol players get more fanboys than they do fangirls.
Do you think? Why do you think so?
Because majority of our audience in Life of the Dol Player are males between the ages of 25 and 30.
Minus the 11, that's already 18.
This is when your analytics help you. realize who
Yeah,
your
yeah.
audience is.
Social media analytics.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tony,
So-
just to your point, TikTok, it's okay. It's more of a like a fun. I don't use it properly, so
It's a
Yeah,
time
I-
pass and gives people a creative, sort
Yeah.
of outlet.
yeah.
I haven't been texting an ex, but I have been reaching out to old friends and people that I probably wouldn't speak to on a daily basis, just to catch up with people and see how they are. And it's been quite nice to hear what people have been up to.
But do you feel like
Um,
that's because you're in this quarantine lockdown and
Because I've got the time to do it. I'm so,
you
mentally
wouldn't usually
occupied.
speak to these people?
No,
if-
I wouldn't. Yeah,
Mm.
I wouldn't. So I'm so mentally occupied with getting my train to work on time and, dealing with that meeting. Or, somebody said they want to go for drinks, but I kind of don't want to go. So I'm hoping they cancel plans.
Sonny's always down for drinks.
But then I always go. So, I think what this has given us is mental capacity and the capacity to stop and think about what you're doing with your day and to actually think about it. I think there's a difference between having a very, very full agenda and doing a lot of things in the day and actually having the time and space to think and
Do you
process
feel like these
thoughts.
hours that we have now in the day become more valuable with what we do, what we choose to do?
Yeah, I think I would rather get up early
Yeah.
instead of sleeping in, and maybe because I'm just getting old. But I
You're not that old.
I came across a really interesting fact. The average life expectancy is about 82 years, give or take, right? 82 years is equivalent to 29,000 days, give or take. 29,000 days is not a lot of days, considering I can spend a Saturday hungover and do absolutely nothing. So I've wasted that day.
Mm.
Now, I'm not saying this to instill a depressing thought process
I
in
guess it's
someone's mind. Thinking,
perspective, though. You're
fuck,
putting
I've
it
only
in.
got 29 days.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put it into perspective, and I'm trying to say, don't waste a day. Like, think clearly about what you're going to do with your day. And
But I mean, like, if there's a day where you're not doing much,
no, of
That's not
course,
a
rest
waste of
is
a day.
important. No, I completely agree. Rest is important, but I think what I'm trying to say is just make the most of the time that you have.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
right now, we have been given an opportunity to spend more time with our families, do something that we would never usually get the opportunity to do,
Sure.
and also just spend a bit of time. Like, I've probably worked out more during this lockdown than I ever have in my life. And I've started running. I've started reading more and watching documentaries. I've started going on FaceTime, and I hate video calling. Prior to, this lockdown, the only people I would video call are my niece and nephew. Shout out
They're
to
cute.
Bria and Sean.
Yeah.
Woo, woo.
Shout out.
So
You know what? I feel
Yeah.
like considering that with like the limited days that we have, and stuff. I guess it's like I saw a quote recently that a friend shared, and it's about the excitement of the unknown, of like what's to come. Like, we're capable of so much in the time, in sometimes a short time that we have, but it's what we decide to do with it, and saying yes to things more, exploring more, and being more experimenting with the time that, I guess not with the time that we have, but with just different things that we're not used to, putting ourselves out of our comfort zone as well. But I guess sometimes that's a bit of a fear aspect for some people. Some people are very much into that. I guess if you're an introvert or extrovert,
But that's the
yeah.
no.
go on.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, I guess something like that excites me, of the unknown of where we can take things and where we can really like go and achieve different things.
Yeah,
the
I just
future.
think the silver lining of the lockdown is actually brought us more freedom, and if you adopt that mentality, I think it puts you in good stead to like do the things that you want to do. I think a lot of people that complain, that they just want this back to over so their lives get back to normal. I just feel like maybe if you guys, I mean, I'm not saying it's a wrong way to think. I just think if you guys try a different mentality approach, maybe
Maybe their
You'll
normal
achieve a lot
change. Maybe then their idea of a normal lifestyle will adapt and change, and they realize that this
Yeah,
is something that they need more of.
I think some people are just a creature of habit, and which is fine. But I mean, me personally, I like to try new things, and I like to go down that route really. And so those people that are struggling, I think we don't know how long this is going to be, and there's only so much you can not do anything, and you just sort of kill the time. And Sunny's right, if you make the most of your days. And I think, yes,
I really liked what you said there, Pav. Freedom. I think that should be the name of this episode.
what freedom.
Freedom in a lockdown.
Yeah, I genuinely do believe. People think isolation is, I think it's the complete opposite. Ironically, it's brought us more freedom.
Just goes to show that it is a matter of mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tough. I fully appreciate some people do find it tough to come out of the way they think. But again, it's just, you've got nothing better to do. You might as well try.
Yeah, but
Take the risk,
I mean,
be experiment.
Yeah,
just do
of course.
What you want.
And I think the positivity of this is we're in May. It sounds like we might be coming out of this as long as people do try and stay home as much as they can. And we'll see what the remainder of the year brings, because, it will be a new normal, and we can expect a lot to change. The same way 9/11 had changed the way the airline industry worked. Apparently, I mean, I wasn't an avid flyer before 9/11. I must have been like 13 or something. I don't know. Before 9/11, you could happily go into the cockpit of a plane while it was flying. I've done that. I remember my dad taking me into the cockpit and meeting the pilot and looking at all the switches and controls of during flight. So, you can do that. But now, there are so many security restrictions in an airline, and
just like how there was that was such an unexpected event that happened. That
exactly.
affected the world.
And now that changed the world for good. And I think now we will see a new normal. We will see hygiene restrictions come in place, and what I mean by that is glass panels in front of shops and
which I've
key
already
workers.
been seeing,
and
but it's not even going to stay. It's going to stay.
And they will stay. So I think we will see a new normal, and I think we will see an influx of sort of digital activity, because I went to a fast food restaurant a couple of days ago with my friends, and Vic, you were there too. It was click and collect, and I think we will begin to see the death of the high street and shopping as we know it. And I mean death with a pinch of salt. It's not like, I'm dead. It's more like
people are putting on a lot more virtual shows, like these live streams that are literally like mimicking how a wedding setup would be. DJs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with change comes opportunity.
Of course.
And I think this gives us an opportunity to be creative, think out the box, and whatever new systems come into play, there will always be opportunities to leverage that and give a service that you would never have thought you would. So
boys, I have a question for you very quickly. Considering we are very heavily involved in the wedding industry, how do you think that will now be affected moving forward once lockdown ends?
Well, I think this year is a write-off for Dawn.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
we're not going to do a single gig.
People are turning Thursdays into Doll Day, Doll Evening, I guess, during the clap moment. All the doll players are getting their dolls out, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, sort of like Sunny said, this will, we are going through a change and things will change.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know your thoughts on what you think will change when weddings are back up and running again.
Actually, let me ask you a rebuttal question.
Okay, go on.
If you were invited to a wedding reception, would you go?
like what, right now, or
Yeah.
No, hell no.
If you were invited to a wedding reception in October, do you think you would go?
Oh,
Like, Indians are not the best at abiding by the rules in the
They're
first
definitely
place.
not.
And I cannot see in a million years a wedding with a 2-meter social distancing. Like,
Oh,
how the
it's
bride and groom
impossible.
ever going to sit in the Gurdwara, for God's sake?
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. How's the uncle that's drunk gonna put his arm around you and ask you when
Exactly.
you're gonna get married? It's just not gonna happen. I think in October it all depends on the situation. So if lockdown has only just been eased, I still wouldn't go, or I would limit the amount of people that would go. So if my whole family's involved, I'd say maybe only 2 people go, not the whole family.
I'm aware that there are still some weddings that haven't been postponed.
Really?
Yes, there are a couple, and I'm thinking.
And are they reducing the number of attendees?
I have no idea.
But how do you reduce the number of attendees in an Indian family? Because
You
it's
can't.
always the case of, oh, but you invited me to yours and you didn't invite me to yours.
I guess that's when it comes down to relatives and their issues that
No,
they like
the
to.
politics and stuff.
Yeah, the
it's
politics.
I think the rule should be, if I follow you on Instagram, that's one criteria. But if I have a picture of you or with you on Instagram, then you can come to my wedding, because we're close enough for you to be
Oh,
on my Instagram.
about
We're close
Facebook
enough for
though,
you to
man?
be
You've
on
got
my
so
wedding.
much family
in
on
that sense,
Facebook.
in that sense, a lot of my attendees will be celebrities, because I follow a whole bunch of celebrities on Instagram. But I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah.
Amazing.
It's I think the new wedding normal will be smaller weddings,
Mhm.
considerably smaller.
Yep.
People spending less money on weddings,
Yep.
and
Abroad. Has to be abroad. Everyone's going to start doing destination weddings, surely.
I don't know.
I mean, destination weddings have become a thing. It's just like, I feel like even limiting it won't be limited. The weddings will still be busy.
No, but if you think about it from an Indian perspective, right? If someone's getting married, like, a lot of people don't want to pay to go. Only the immediate family usually go, so you end up having a smaller number of attendees anyway. But then you get away with inviting everybody and saying, well, I invited you, you didn't come, that's down to you. I think that just might be a way to, I mean,
Politics of an Indian wedding.
Exactly.
yeah, exactly.
I did recently have a friend who did get married during this quarantine period. She just had a home thing, very small, mandir set up, and back to basics. It was like all dressed up, very nice. Photographer, distance. But I guess it's because they did that because I guess some people don't want to wait or have their mind changed and a year later and regret having to wait that long as well, because they get their heart set on a date.
I think if you were planning on getting married in 2020 and because of the lockdown you couldn't get married, and if you were fearful of having your mind change, you shouldn't be getting married to that person in the first place.
Yeah, I
If
agree.
something like a lockdown can change your mind, you really need to rethink your stance on
Because
marriage
I guess then that shows that this person
and
has
relationships, for that matter.
a lack of patience for their relationship as well.
Do you know what? I think weddings and relationships during a lockdown, I think that needs another podcast. I think that needs its own episode.
It does. I think it does. There's a lot to
But I mean,
discuss.
to answer your question, if someone did ask me to go to a wedding in October, I would say yes, only if I'm playing Dol, not as a guest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like a door player at your wedding in October, please contact Vic Kempf.
Probably
you can
won't
DM
be great.
DM
Probably won't be great.
Yeah, you can DM him on Instagram. If you'd like him to attend as a friend, as a companion, be your best man, perhaps give a speech,
The answer's no.
dial him in via Zoom.
Yeah.
And with that said, let's wrap this episode up. Thank you for listening. This is the In the Group Chat podcast.
Peace.
See you guys.